Call the September 23rd Hayes City Commission meeting to order at 6:30 PM. All 5 city commissioners are present. Minutes, any comments, corrections?
I have none.
Thank you. Financial statement, Mr. Rupp.
Thank you. This is a summary of revenue and expenditure activities for the city of Hayes, month ended August 31, 2021. Revenues in August totaled $2,629,837. That's a decrease of $150,000 when we compare to the same period last year. Notable areas of increased revenue: airport fuel sales were up $9,500 due simply to the timing of receipts. Airport passenger facility charges were up $14,700 due to the timing of receipts, but also due to increased air travel. Building permits rose $8,700. Miscellaneous revenue in new equipment reserves was up $29,000 as a result of several pieces of equipment being auctioned, which included UTVs and grasshopper mowers. Month-to-date water consumption was up 16%. Month-to-date residential water consumption was up 16%, with business up 17%. Year-to-date total consumption is up 3%, with total revenue up 6.6%, or $164,000. A couple of revenue decreases: transient guest tax was off $150,000 due to timing of receipts there also, and franchise fees were down $26,000. Expenditures in August totaled $4,308,665. That's a decrease of $233,000. Some notable areas of increased expenditures: airport improvement increased $446,000 due to continued work on the 422 runway lighting, as well as the purchase of a 2021 Dusen loader with batwing mower. IT new equipment rose $8,000 for the purchase of 10 PCs that were at end of life. The $10,000 deductible from the May hailstorm increased intergovernmental expenditures, and that total claim was in excess of $1 million. And projects for special parks was up $80,000 for the ongoing work on the east multi-use path. Notable areas of decreased expenditure: you may have noticed the $30,362 credit to the electricity expenditure for the Bickle-Schmitz Sports Complex. That is capital credits from Midwest Energy, but is also a posting error. It will be reversed and correctly posted to the appropriate revenue line. Commissioner Capital Reserve expenditures were off $191,000 as compared to a year ago due to the reconstruction of canal at this time last year. Economic development fell at $100,000 due to timing of the Fort Hayes Foundation scholarship disbursement at this time last year. The purchase of a fire truck a year ago decreased new equipment reserve expenditures $462,000, and another credit of $31,000 in the projects line for water reclamation reserves was insurance proceeds for cleanup on a sewer line mishap on the part of a private contractor's project. Month-to-date general fund sales tax collections were at $742,754. That's another increase, $39,000 or 5.6% compared to last year. Year-to-date general fund sales tax collections are at $5,504,378, up $446,000 or 8.8%. The 6-month average is at 12.7%, and that's an increase of 6% when compared to a year ago. The month-to-date county sales tax collections were at $90,000 with a year-to-date total of $664,294. The reported top 10 quarter-to-date sales tax collections by classification was up $197,000 or 9%. The largest percentage increases were in accommodation at 133%, food services at 34%, and clothing at 28%. These top 10 represent 76% of the total sales tax collections for the running quarter. Finally, the portfolio certificates of deposit on August 31 totaled $10 million with a weighted average interest rate of 5 basis points. That's down almost 1% from a year ago. Total par value of U.S. Treasury notes is still at $11.85 million with a weighted average yield of maturity of 6 basis points, and the total balance of money market account on August 31 was $38.75 million with a current yield of 5 basis points. We continue to keep funds in there simply because of the rate. Total investments are up $4,838,492.
I'll make a motion that we accept the August 2021 financial statement.
Second.
Been moved by Commissioner Malik, seconded by Commissioner Musil. Is there any discussion or questions?
Just curious with the shortage of equipment out there, if like the auction items, are we getting good prices for that?
Yeah, I think in that particular set, they were pretty surprised with some of the bids they got, and I know there was that firehouse was sold, and they were real pleased with what they got on that old firehouse, the trailer that they pulled around. So yeah, I think And I know an auction prior to the one we just talked about, there were some pickups that were limping along, and they were blown away with what they were getting. So that auction works well right now.
Good.
Anything else? I'll call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Passes 5-0. Any citizen comments? Seeing none, we move to the consent agenda. I don't have anything in it. Good. First item up in new business is the update on Interstate 70, exit 157 bridge replacement.
And Jonathan Marburger with JEO Consulting is here. They are the engineer that's contracted with KDOT to do the redesign of the exit 157 bridge. And Jonathan's going to update the commission on the project and how they got to this point.
Welcome, Jonathan.
Thank you. Yeah, as Toby mentioned, I'm John Marburger with JEO Consulting Group. Also in the room is Jeff Sims. He's a project manager with KDOT Road Design, and Kevin Zimmer, you may know here locally at Hayes with KDOT. Well, I just wanted to take an opportunity to give you an update on the project. We've been doing some work over the past year on a concept report, and then which we've given to the city staff as well. So hopefully there's not too many surprises, but with the KDOT local consult meeting coming up on October 5th, we thought it might be helpful to just have a conversation and make sure that you guys are aware of the project, as well as if you decide to support the project at that meeting, that maybe some of the background information we present gives you some ability to frame how you'd like to present that from the local side. So with that, I'll just step through a number of things and some of the project context and existing conditions. I'll probably go fairly fast, but feel free to stop me if there's something I'm glossing over. But I assume that you're fairly familiar with some of the issues out at the interchange today. And then I'll kind of go over the proposed concept of the new interchange and then next steps that are coming down the line. So with that, the project context, this is a map of the city of Hayes. When we talk about area developments, obviously Vine Street, if you're around, you know there's been a lot of activity along Vine Street, and I'm told the last phase is coming along very good. And we drove through that today, so that's pretty exciting development. But with the roundabouts, you know, while they're designed to handle the larger trucks, there may be some hesitancy on the part of trucks to go through that many roundabouts. And so I know the county's been successful with a build grant, and it sounds like got good bids on the bypass here recently. And so that will be funneling a lot of large trucks, large vehicles around town to use the exit at 157 instead of 159. And so with that, the 55th Street intersection's getting completed right now, and that leads us right into our interchange project, which is sort of the next domino to fall in the midst of all those developments. And so our study area basically included the area right around the interchange itself, from south of Frontier Road, where the KDOT and Highway Patrol shop is, up north to 55th Street, essentially where the new intersection improvements are being constructed as we speak. And also, I'm sure you're aware of the truck plaza going in. Fairly major development, a big driver of traffic coming to the interchange, that even today, if there's issues getting off I-70 and getting on 183 bypass, once that truck plaza and development comes in, you know, obviously that's going to add additional traffic to the system that we need to address. So as we look at area development and growth, you know, there's a lot of business park, the pink, Civic, I was told how to make the pointer here. I'm going to get the hang of it. I didn't practice. But obviously the residential's coming in, and you can see there's 10-foot path to the south, and then there'll be a 10-foot path up by the new truck plaza. And so how do we tie all those things together with the traffic that's going to come through? And obviously along 230th, there's several major drivers of development and growth that are available as that project gets completed. So there's certainly potential for a lot of extra traffic to come down to the new interchange. So at the interchange itself, some of the things driving, originally this was a bridge replacement. We thought oh, that's a narrow bridge, and now we're going to have these large trucks coming through. And the KDOT had on the docket, over the next 10 years to replace this bridge, regardless of what happened at the interchange. But with the development, there was an opportunity to just take a step back and say, well, what's the long-term needs at the interchange? How do we set this thing up for the future that will work with everything else that's going on? So that 30-foot roadway that's there today, can be difficult as you come up to the end ramp terminal and look and try to see around the existing bridge. As trucks try to make this turn, this is a picture of just a regular old semi trying to make that turn, and you can see how tight those curves are for just a regular semi, let alone, say, a wind blade truck trying to make that maneuver. And I believe even at times they've had to take down signs or get into guardrail just to get those bigger trucks through there. And part of what drives that is a very severe angle between I-70 and the ramp terminal itself. So it's not very truck friendly. It's got that wraparound guardrail. If you go out there, you can see it's all dinged up. That's from trucks hitting it. And the sight distance, the angle, as I mentioned, is fairly severe. And so, those are things that add to safety and the ability of users to use that interchange. JEO also took a look at the ramp safety data. And what we found is those old ramps, over the years they've been overlaid, and so some of the bank that normally would be in a ramp to help a car stay on that ramp, over the years that's really gone away and it's flattened out. And so we really see hot spots of accidents occurring along those ramps. And they're fairly short ramps as well, when we compare them to modern criteria, for trucks and cars to come off the interstate, they don't have a lot of time to slow down before they get to the top of the ramp. And that's borne out in what we saw in that traffic data. And this is just a lot of extra numbers, but the point here is the numbers on the left are the ramp, or the locations on the ramp, and the numbers on the right are the crash rates. So number of cars per million vehicles traveled. And the bottom red line is the rural two-lane average, so 1.35 per million vehicle miles traveled. And you can see on the ramps we've got, on some cases, 30 or 15, so significantly higher crash rates. And part of that's because it's a very short section, just mathematically and statistically that happens. We would expect a little bit higher, but it's fairly high compared to a normal two-lane road. The existing bypass, when we look at the main line of 183 bypass, it's 2 lanes, has 50 to 60 mile an hour design speed, but part of the issue on it is there's several close accesses. 55th Street is fairly close to the interchange to the north. That's kind of a fixed item there, but Fairground Road south of the interchange, there's been a lot of anecdotal evidence that, maybe people are looking for Fairground and they turn on the wrong way into the interstate. And a lot of that's just, it's within, just over 200 feet of each other. So vehicles can get confused there. And so obviously that area shows up as a pretty big hot spot for us when we look at crashes. And so again, this is just a lot of traffic data, but the crash rate on 183 is 4.67, the average statewide 1.4 for a similar type roadway. And even if we look at kind of a statistical barrier of 2.82 crashes, we're statistically higher than average is what that's telling you. And then along 183, we've seen over the last several years, 13 injury crashes, a couple head-ons, a couple angles, a couple rear ends. So the rear ends may come from lack of turn lanes, the angles, just the sight distance, and the amount of traffic on 183. And so those are things that definitely kind of catch our interest as we're looking at, evaluating an existing piece of infrastructure. So as far as future traffic needs, we looked at, there was a traffic impact statement for the travel plaza. We took that data and added to it to give the full picture of the interchange. I believe that study ended at the northern ramp terminal. We went ahead and took that through the entire study area. And what we found is right now there's no auxiliary lanes off the ramps, but they are warranted in the future. So both off-ramps, eastbound and westbound off-ramps, we will plan to have additional auxiliary lanes. So as that traffic, you get more and more traffic, we're not queuing back into the interstate, which would be a dangerous situation. And then on 183 itself, we found that having a 3-lane section, with a center turn lane, would also help some of the rear end crash concerns, as well as just help operations overall. And then coming into the interchange from the north, there will be a dedicated right turn lane. Coming into the interchange from the south, there will be a dedicated right turn lane to get on I-70. And then we look down at Frontier Road as well, and I'll show you that concept, but essentially at Frontier and Fairgrounds or / Intersys Road, there will be a traditional left turn lane there as well. So the proposed concept, getting into that, there are several things that we considered as we evaluated concepts, and I won't bore you with all. We looked at 6 different things. If you really want to talk about that, we can look at the concept report together. I'm going to mostly jump to the actual concept that we selected in coordination with KDOT's executive staff. But essentially some of the things that we reviewed are safety on the ramps, safety on 183 bypass, future traffic demands. Are we setting up the project to accommodate the proposed development? Are we accommodating those oversized vehicles with whatever concept we come up with? And what about pedestrian accommodation? So typically, KDOT does not include pedestrian accommodation in a project, and that's sort of true here too, and I'll just discuss where we're at with that. And then traffic handling during construction. So if we were to rebuild the interchange where it is today, we would have to close down that bridge. You've got a brand new travel plaza. Could that be a negative of replacing the bridge on alignment? Turns out that it is. Previous coordination was a thing, so we know that a lot of effort went into the 55th Street intersection. We know a lot of effort went into the build grants, and so we want to honor that and set the project up to mesh with those already going on improvements. And then, of course, the development around, does the project serve, what's anticipated in the future. So all those went into the hopper as we evaluated all the different options. And, I guess I am going to talk quick about what the different options were. So option 1 was just replace the bridge, essentially. And you could do a easy version where you just replace the bridge and no turn lanes, or you could scab on some turn lanes onto the interchange ramps, which are needed. But that option really doesn't solve a lot of the long-term issues. Option 2, would be a full interchange concept, which that's going to solve all the issues of future traffic demands, but it would be on existing alignment. And so with each of the option 2 and 3, we looked at, do we extend the project south through Frontier Road and do some extra turn lanes or not? And so option 3 is a little bit of an offset alignment, which would allow us to keep the interchange largely open through construction, but also provide all the benefits of fixing the ramps, fixing the turn lanes, fixing some of the sight distance issues that are out there, fixing fairground road spacing to the interchange. So ultimately, when we reviewed that with KDOT, this was sort of a consumer reports look, I guess, sort of a qualitative review of each of the options. And so you can see as we go from do nothing to 3B, which would be the full interchange offset alignment, some of those dots continually get filled in. So when we look at operations and safety on 183 bypass, when we look at operations and safety on I-70, when we look at pedestrian accommodation or oversized truck accommodation, the more improvements obviously we do, the higher costs they get. But even with just replacing the bridge, you're spending almost $10 million, and it really solves almost none of your issues. And so that's where KDOT looked at this and said, well, we want to actually solve the issues and set it up for the long term. But now it's not really a bridge replacement project anymore. It's more of a modernization project. And that's where I'm kind of setting up to talk about local consult that's coming on down the line. But essentially they looked at it and said, there's so much out of here. The right project is to rebuild the entire interchange. And the costs between doing it offset and trying to reduce those traffic impacts during construction versus doing it on alignment, they're pretty close. They're not a lot different. And so let's try to reduce the pain during construction as well as set the project up to be basically the ultimate improvement. At the bottom, I do have a line here for adding sidewalk. So as I mentioned, KDOT typically doesn't incorporate sidewalk into the project. The way that we've set up the preliminary plans is to do some grading to allow the dirt work to be there. and then the city could come back at a later date and connect that sidewalk if they'd like to. So the project grading is set up for accommodating a future 10-foot path, that could potentially connect in down south or connect into the 10-foot path that's being constructed around the 55th Street interchange. So with that, this is the concept. I've got a big board over here I'll leave with the city as well if you'd like to look at that later. But essentially it's a little bit difficult to see, but you can see the purple a little bit if I use my, that's a back button. Which one is it the top?
Yep.
Okay, the purple there is the new bridge and the green is the old bridge. And so if we just offset that interchange just a little bit, we can accommodate, for the most part, traffic through construction. Now, even with that, there will be a couple times, maybe a couple weeks at a time, when we build each ramp terminal, that we'll need to close down, say, a ramp terminal. But other than that, we should be able to largely keep 183 bypass open and keep access to the interstate, I would say 90% of the time, with the exception of some short-term closures for certain movements. And then Fairground Road, this is the other major feature of the project, would be realigned to line up with Frontier Road, and then Intersys Road would actually get their access off the realigned Fairground Road. So that when we talk to Intersys, they kind of like that. It gets as you come onto the highway, there's a big hill. So if you're in a big truck pulling out of there, that gives you a little bit more of a runway to get up the hill, a little better sight distance. And then with the left turns off of 183 bypass, having a dedicated lane for that allows them to get their staff into work and not be hanging out in high-speed traffic as they're trying to make a left turn. So we think that'll be a good safety improvement as well. There was some question, I think, about development around the southwest side. The orange area in between Fairground and 183 really isn't very developable. There's a lot of drainage that comes through that area, and so there's not really enough space in there to be able to, say put a Applebee's or something in that area. You're probably better off maybe south of Intersys Road, southwest of Intersys Road. That area sits up a little bit higher if anyone ever, wanted to do any development south of the highway. And then obviously this is just a little recap of our consumer reports and a little bit more of a zoom in of the bridge area itself with the turn lanes and things that'll go into that bridge. So next steps coming down the line. As I mentioned, we did a concept report this last winter. We've done preliminary design. I've got a stack of plans over there that we're ready, what we call field check, which is about 50% complete. And when I say 50% complete, I mean the footprint is basically set. We know where the construction limits are. We've got a pretty good idea of right-of-way needs. And so there's a lot of geometric design that's complete. So the next 50% is traffic control, incorporating standard drawings, finalizing the bridge design, those kind of issues. But the footprint of the project, I would say, is probably 90 to 95% complete at this stage. And so the next steps in October, there's a local consult meeting, and I assume you're all familiar with that, but essentially KDOT has gone out and is going out to all 6 districts, as they analyze their next 2 years of construction pipeline funding. They want to hear from the local communities, what's the main priority, and we're in District 2. So or District 3, excuse me, what's the main priority for northwest Kansas? And so that's where, Goodland may come with their ideas, and, Norton may come with their ideas, but Hayes is in the group too, and what's the most important thing for the entire region to spend those limited dollars on? And so that's where for you guys to consider, partnerships with Ellis County and the local businesses and Hayes as what's your main priority for the Ike transportation program and that construction pipeline. In order to move this project forward, that's really going to be dependent on the outcome of that local consult meeting and inclusion of the project in the Ike pipeline. And so right now, as I mentioned, the project started out as a bridge replacement, which was funded at, say, $1 million. Well, this project needs over $20 million, and so since the scope has changed from that just straight up bridge replacement to a modernization project. That's why it needs to go through this local consult process. And KDOT needs to hear from the locals of their needs and their desires for prioritization of projects like this. And so right now, the earliest we would let a project would be July of 2023. And so you're really probably not starting construction in earnest till 2024. Could be a little bit done before that, but again, that's all dependent on whether the project's included in the pipeline. So with that, I'll just say thank you and open it up to any questions you may have, any discussion.
Commissioners?
Where do we go for this local hearing on this?
Well, originally it was going to be right here in Hayes, but due to the ongoing pandemic, all the meetings have been moved online. And so I believe, Toby, you've probably gotten
We're going to host them here as
Perfect.
much as we can. We'll have television. We've invited the people from the county to come here and anyone else that has an interest at that time. I hope everybody does come. I mean, it's our opportunity to really be heard.
Date?
October 6th. 4th,
Fifth.
6th,
5th.
October 5th.
5th.
And,
You'll be gone.
right, yeah, a couple of you are going to be gone. Sandy has sent some invites out for that, and
It just makes it nice to have
set
the,
up in here.
they'll do all the Zoom work and we'll just have
Yeah.
one and on the screen. So we hope that the county will join us and like I say, anybody else that would like to.
And I've seen, you know, when communities come together with a unified voice, it really does seem to make a difference. So.
Good. John, I just had one question. When you're starting through this concept of this, how do you anticipate, I love the word future, and I love the way you're approaching this rather than just fixing a bridge, but how do you anticipate the amount of traffic that new road is going to carry along with the travel plaza completion? How do you get to that number that's going to be okay?
Well, there's a giant book that has analyzed, you know, for a shopping mall or for a restaurant or for a hotel, you know, how many rooms are in that hotel, a convention center, a hospital, anything you can imagine that gets built. There's a group called the Institute of Traffic Engineers, ITE, that has developed charts so that you can say, this is the amount of development we anticipate full build out, and this is how much traffic that development is going to generate adjacent to the highway.
And you anticipate that in longer term than just the next few years?
That's
Keep
right.
saying long term.
So we married that with data from KDOT and long-term traffic trends, as well as what we would anticipate using some other reports and tools to try to estimate what might be coming off that bypass in future years. All that, I mean, it's a little bit of magic, but also at the same time, probably using the best tools available to us to anticipate what traffic may be coming in the next 20 years.
Good, thank you. I'm really, really pleased with moving that road to the Enersis Road area. I've lived here all my life, and if I'm not thinking when I go up there, there's many times that I have to look twice. So I think it'll be a big safety feature.
On your slide, you said signals, so will there be full-blown traffic lights up there?
Well, on the south ramp terminal, the eastbound, I anticipate there will be a traffic signal constructed with the project, assuming the project is included in the pipeline.
Right.
In the future, our analysis shows that will be signal needs at the north terminal and at 55th Street.
Gotcha.
So at some point, those will need to be coordinated, but as traffic continues to grow and the truck plaza builds out.
Thank you.
With respect to the county commissioners that are here, you're certainly welcome to ask any questions if you'd like to at this time. I think it's 9:30, if I remember correctly, but I'll send it out again.
Kevin, do you know the right time?
It's 9:30. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sure it's 9:30. But we'll make sure you have the information.
We definitely send it all out again.
You bet.
And I'm sure Becky will get that on for the general public too. Okay,
Very good.
great.
Anything else, commissioners? Thank you very much,
Thank you.
John. We appreciate it.
Thank you for letting us come.
You bet.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is resolution making findings as to the proposed Frontier Apartments LLC Rural Housing Incentive District, RHID. Mr. Rupp.
Good evening, Commissioners. Kim Rupp, Director of Finance. We are in receipt of an application for a Rural Housing Incentive District, or RHID, from Frontier Apartments LLC. Their project involves an adaptive reuse and historic preservation project to create 12 high-quality, moderate-income apartments inside the former St. Joseph's School located at 210 West 13th. As you're aware, the RHID process is multifaceted. The very first step in this process is adopting a resolution making certain housing needs findings and determinations advancing the statutory process for the RHID creation. Following adoption and publication, the resolution will then be sent to the Kansas Secretary of Commerce for approval to move forward with the creation process and further commission action. Additionally, the developer is requesting the city support an application for a moderate income housing grant, or MIH grant, to further support the project. MIH grants are funded by the state of Kansas and administered by the Kansas Housing Resource Corporation. According to them, requests for proposals, MIH grant applications will be prioritized if the proposed development uses RHID financing. Therefore, participation from the city and other local taxing jurisdictions in the RHID financing may result in additional project funding from the state. So just as a refresher, we thought we'd go through a little RHID 101 again. An RHID is defined by the city or county establishing the district, and it's based on a housing needs study. That last study was 2017, completed by the Docking Institute at Fort Hays. That analysis must show a shortage of quality housing. The shortage is expected to persist. The shortage is a substantial deterrent to future economic growth, and the development of quality housing is dependent on incentives. This proposed Frontier Apartments fits within the findings of the 2017 study. The RHID will capture 100% of incremental property taxes, less the 1.5 mils to the state and 20 mils to the school. These can be up to 25 years per project and can be financed by either bonds or pay-as-you-go. Our own economic development policy, however, prohibits bond financing. Therefore, this development would be a pay-as-you-go. At expiration, the total improved valuation will be restored to all taxing jurisdictions. It's also worth mentioning that given this property was owned by a religious community, it's been exempt from real property taxes since its inception. Also, one of the reasons the developer is able to apply for the RHID to this project is because state statute regarding RHIDs was expanded to include preservation of historic buildings or those older than 25 years for residential use in a central business district. Improvements must be to the second floor of that property or above. This map shows the site of the proposed development. St. Joseph's Catholic Church is across the street. Mr. Bird's office is to the east. The defined district is inside that red box on the map and includes parking to the west and partial profit parking to the east. According to the developer, Frontier Apartments will feature 8 one-bedroom units averaging 770 square feet and 4 two-bedroom units averaging 1,000 square feet. For financial considerations, total cost of the project is estimated to be $2.64 million. That includes acquisition costs, construction work, as well as soft costs that include architect, loan interest, consultants, developer fees, travel, and appliances. Based on current project cost estimates, the developer estimates that approximately $1,782,500 of the total project costs are RHID eligible expenses under state law and our own economic development policy. So those costs eligible for reimbursement include construction and acquisition. The expansion of the RHID law mentioned earlier allows for that. So based on current plans to develop the project, it's estimated that the RHID would generate approximately $450,000 in incremental property tax revenues over the 20-year term of this RHID. Only RHID reimbursable expenses will be made available to the developer. The developer estimates that the RHID will not be able to generate revenue in excess of the eligible costs, therefore the entire term of the 20 years it would be required. To move this forward in the RHID process, we'll need the approval of the resolution making certain findings and determinations to the needs for housing within the city of Hays. KSA 12-5241 authorizes us as an incorporated city within population of less than 60,000 to designate rural housing incentive districts within the city. This resolution also finds that the 2017 housing needs analysis does find a shortage of quality housing. shortage is expected to persist. The shortage is substantial as a deterrent to future economic growth and development. And finally, that such economic development depends on additional financing or incentives for the construction and renovation of quality housing. And the last consideration of this resolution is that it defines the boundaries of the IHID as we had shown in that red box. And so my presentation includes the next agenda item, which is the resolution in support of a moderate income housing MIH grant application. These grants are funded by the state, administered by the Kansas Housing Resources Corporation. Those grant applications are time sensitive. That's why we have included it with this application. They must include a resolution from the governing body indicating support for the project. Adopting the resolution would allow the developer to continue with preparation and submission of an application for a $360,000 grant. Again, that is funded by the state and does carry some reporting requirements. Mr. Byrd will be sure to assign those to the developer as we progress with the development agreement. As I mentioned before, and as you can see on the calendar, this is a marathon of meetings, especially when you consider the work sessions involved. Work will take us through December. Options tonight would be to adopt the resolutions, decline those resolutions, or provide us with other direction. Our recommendation and action requested would be to adopt both resolutions.
I move we adopt resolution number 2021-014, making certain housing needs findings and determinations. Do I continue with the second?
No.
Just that one.
Just one, okay.
Second that motion.
Been moved by Commissioner Reuter, seconded by Commissioner Burgess. Is there any other questions or discussions? Not, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0.
I'll move to adopt resolution 2021-015 in support of moderate income housing grant application.
Second.
Been moved by Commissioner Burgess and seconded by Commissioner Reuter. Any discussion or questions? Not, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Passes 5-0. Thank you very much, Kim.
Thank you.
Good luck, Justin. We're happy to have you investing in our community.
Yes, thank you.
Progress. We've had progress again.
Good evening, Colin Belzer, Assistant City Manager. And for this month's progress report, Public Works have been busy pouring new concrete. Here they are at a failed alley return near 5th and Pine. The intersection of 17th and Main buckled this summer due to an expansion, so they did repair that area, including curb and gutter and ADA ramps. And then 20th and Milner also saw some panels get reconstructed. At the South Main Street crosswalk, they painted that to make it more visible to drivers, you know, to make sure that people are aware that a lot of people do walk across that path. Public or Planning Inspection and Enforcement, or PI, brought back the Inspection Connection. So that's a newsletter that's sent out quarterly to all licensed contractors to provide updated code information, trainings, highlighted projects, etc. PI also participated in a virtual conference for mixed-use downtown redevelopment, development opportunities. They attended virtually, but the in-person was in Pittsburgh, Kansas, and this is a project that Pittsburgh, Kansas did. Some of you might be aware, but Block 22, where they collaborated with Pittsburgh State University and the city. But so that's why it's being showcased here. The Hayes Fire Department participated in the 9/11 Memorial Stair Climb. 8 members of our fire department did that. Over 250 people did participate in the community event. Hayes Fire Department also had a joint technical rescue training event with firefighters from Goodland, Sherman County. The scenarios focused on locating and extracting persons trapped in a building. Fire Department has completed all the data for the 2021 water flow improvements on our fire hydrants. They have approximately 1,100 fire hydrants that they test annually to check water flow, and then depending on the flow level, they paint the tops different colors to differentiate the pressure that's in them. They did see noticeable increases, which is thanks to the Water Resources Department and all the proactive maintenance and replacements that they're doing. Arc Park, as you know, it's come along a lot in the year. And so on the left is just a Google aerial photo of what it used to look like, and on the right, of course, is aerial. And you can see from all the cars at the parking lot, it's quite busy. The actual playground opened on the 13th, and it's been heavily utilized. And then this is probably outdated now, but the splash pad opened today. The left is probably a month or more ago, and then on the right was just a couple days ago. But it is open 12 to 6 as weather permits.
There were kids standing there waiting for the noon time to hit.
Out at the Bickelschmidt Sports Complex, Mid-America Sports Construction's completed grade work, and they are working on the installation of infield and bullpen drainage systems in preparation for the turf project. Park staff are also working in the warning tracks to improve the drainage and prepare for planting of grass. And then they're also coordinating with Mid-America Sports Construction on any obstructions or conflicts with irrigation systems as they install the turf. At the golf course, there were some compaction issues by golf carts, and so golf course crew redeveloped and made a nice little landscaping area. Dan Rupp and Frontier Park playgrounds have had new slides installed. They replaced slides that were damaged due to age and weathering. In IT, new utility billing form layout. Very exciting. So the old software system did expire and it wasn't being supported anymore, but it did take a lot of work from our IT department for sure, but they worked in coordination with Kim, finance department, and the vendor. So people will be getting new bills. And hopefully a little simpler. The preparation part is on the bottom now, which is more aligned with most building companies. Here's Master Police Officer Brandon Bell reading to children for the library's reading program. On 9/11, the Police Department Honor Guard participated in various ceremonies in remembrance of that day. The Hayes Police Department participated in You Drink, You Drive, You Lose campaign. They did make 38 traffic stops and successful in removing 9 impaired drivers from the roadways. Outdoor watering restrictions end on September 30th. Brandon Cooley at CVB has been working on a lot of these, as you know, but he's been doing some virtual tours. So people wanting to consider Hayes for an event can now virtually walk through the Hilton Garden Inn, as this example, to see if that would fit their needs before booking. CVB also did some partner advertising with the Sternberg. So in both places, advertise the Sternberg or the Aquatic Center. And then there's nothing date specific about these, so these can be used year after year. Janet Kuhn presented Hayes at the Kansas State Fair in Hutch just a few weeks ago, or last week, I think. Also pictured is the publications manager for Kansas Tourism, so making sure we can keep in that magazine. On September 17th, as you know, a press conference announced Hayes as the site selected for the 50th Shrine Bowl in 2023. At the airport, maintenance staff are preparing centerline joint sealant material and portions to eliminate foreign object debris issues that come off of the runway. The downtime is really short. The material sets up in about 15 minutes, so there's doesn't interrupt air traffic. 27th Street construction is progressing. They have moved just recently again as they're eastward in the area of Walnut, Hillcrest, and Cottonwood. Hess Services began the 230th 55th project on June 7th. The $2 million project is funded by, in part, KDOT Economic Development Grant. And this is a little dated because they've actually started pouring Main Road last I saw, but here's some curb and gutter that they pushed in recently. The East Multi-Use Path is progressing. They are at 22nd Street now, and they started down by the Hayes Rec, so it's very popular in there. There's about 1.4 miles in length. Morgan Brothers completed a 177,000 concrete patch project, and so the map on the left, everything in red, is where they went in and did some concrete patches for us. And then last week, utility maintenance contractors began prepping sections of Lincoln Tunnel for the epoxy coating lighting. You might have seen some people, we got complaints that our tunnel was on fire, but it's because they're sandblasting and the dust is coming out. So they are prepping it for the lining. So don't be concerned if you see that. And then obviously North Vine, it's progressed to phase 4, the second season. You got a really good detail from John, so I just have a couple pictures. These were done on Tuesday, I think, and they're already, again, they're moving really fast, as Kevin Zimmer said. So picture on the left looking south, 37th and 32nd, 33rd roundabouts, and then on the right is interstate looking north to the 41st and Mopar. And then trying to get a full visual down the line, you can see all the roundabouts, even 32nd, 33rd in the distance. That's all I have for progress.
Thank you, Colin. Melissa, that's a hard act to follow.
That's a lot of good stuff.
Yes, Hayes Happenings with Melissa Dixon.
Good evening, Commissioners. Melissa Dixon from the Convention and Visitors Bureau with just some upcoming events that I want to be sure you're aware of. Fort Hays State Homecoming is coming up September 30th with the parade Saturday morning at 11 and the game Saturday at 7 p.m.
And I will be tapping the keg on October 1st.
Do you have your outfit
I
ready?
have my outfit ready to go. I'm ready.
We will be dressed for the occasion in our dirndls.
Best part of being mayor.
That's one of the big deal things.
So
It is.
also, Oktoberfest will be the same weekend. Again, a 2-day event like they did in 2019. That was successful even with some iffy weather on one day. It evened out the second day. And they really do emphasize family activities on that second day with like a pumpkin roll game for kids and things like that. So 2 days down at Municipal Park. In addition, RPM Speedway will be hosting their fall nationals the same weekend. So what is normally a sellout weekend for our hotels looks like now it will be an overflow weekend and benefit everyone. Getting ready for Halloween, Hays City Historic Tours, Haunted Tours, will be happening downtown on 8th Street. They'll start from the Hays Community Theater's location Friday and Saturday night prior to Halloween. And this will be a walking tour that leaves every 15 minutes. It's only $10, so if you see some shady characters more than usual, they're probably along with this tour, and they will have a zombie option that you can go through if you're really brave. Trick or treat on the bricks, Friday of Halloween weekend from 3 to 5 in the afternoon. I know the retailers are very excited to get the kids back out again. Again, Hays Community Theater will present Rocky Horror Picture Show the Friday of Halloween weekend. You get a Rocky Horror goodie bag, popcorn, and live theater for only $10. What other community can offer you that? Sternberg Museum of Natural History will have some Halloween events, and they'll be getting out their creepiest, crawliest critters for you to visit with on the Saturday of Halloween weekend, and they do ask that you register for that ahead of time. Hays Symphony will have a Creepy Classics concert with some spooky medleys that you will recognize. They will be actually on Sunday, on Halloween Day. Those symphony concerts are always free, and they'll have some fun pre-concert activities, and costumes are encouraged. Also on Halloween Day, on that Sunday, Big Creek Crossing will welcome kids out to trick-or-treat there as well. And this weekend, I can't not let you know, there's also a symphony concert on Saturday, because I will be welcoming at the door. So it's in my calendar, I promise. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Melissa. Very good. Commissioners, any comments or issues? Commissioner Musil? Don't leave the issues alone.
You know, one of the, he's talking about the multi-use path. I had somebody talking to me yesterday who lives over in that area by the high school and said they've seen people in there that didn't even know it lived in their area. That's what it's all
That's what
about,
it's all
getting
about.
people out. And, you know, I've had the opportunity to go to the Arc Park like 4 or 5 times the last week, and it's just amazing how many people are out every day, and people are just amazed. And the people that, what they did behind the scenes for that, it's just unbelievable. It's such a great addition to our community. So thank you, everyone that had something to do with that.
Along those lines, nobody wants to see you or Mason in your speedo over there.
Especially me.
I know those park up, so I have nothing else. Thank you.
Commissioner Burgess?
Since we don't have a meeting next week, I'll wish everybody a happy and safe Oktoberfest.
Commissioner Reader?
Yeah, it sounds like we're gonna have a very, very busy October. So everybody be safe. Have a wonderful, wonderful October and Oktoberfest and Fort Hayes Homecoming and RPM Speedway and whatever else you're planning on doing around these communities. It's a good time, and no promises on that, Ron.
Okay,
Since
well,
you-
I
since you-
ask, I just ask.
Since you live close, at least
Yeah.
put a towel around you or something.
Yes.
I'll do my best.
I had a couple things. I had the opportunity this afternoon to visit with a Leadership Kansas class that is in Hayes for a day and a half, and great group of people, most of them from eastern Kansas, and visiting with a lot of them afterwards, they're so impressed with what's going on in our community, and particularly downtown. They just couldn't believe it and had lots of questions afterwards. So that was nice to be able to do that. I always enjoy that piece of it. And I want to give a special thanks to our Parks Department, to Jeff and his team. Without those guys, I'm just not sure how this Arc Park would have been finished. I think they were in there and doing everything they could for the Arc Park folks. They were all out there today. The team that's going to be taking care of it was sitting there waiting for everything to be turned on. We had some pictures on Facebook. So I want to, it's just another example of what happens with our departments within the city. They step up and make things happen, and we appreciate it as commissioners. We're adjourned.